This week, we're joined now by Johnny Mac, John McMullen, host of Birds 365, here to break it down tonight. J-Mac, you watched it from home tonight, a different point of view for you. What did you make your first reactions here to the Eagles preseason game number 2?
Yeah, a lot more entertaining than I was expecting. Offense all over the place. Carson stealing the show almost. If it wasn't for Isaiah Bolden. So, 2 hurdles. Carson Steele is going to be a superstar for at least 24 hours in Philadelphia. Tremendous performance by him. Tanner McKee did a great job. Boy, I got to tell you, Andy Dalton got the start, and I said, oh, that's bad news for Tanner McKee. Then in the second drive, he looked pretty good. Got a little chemistry going with Darius Cooper. And you said, that might be it for Tanner McKee. But then, the first and third drive were brutal from Andy Dalton. And a lot of that had to do with Quez Watkins on that third series, just not catching the football. I don't know. Quez is so weak at the point of attack, at the catch point. He's not doing the quarterback any favors. And then McKee came in, and I was struck by 2 things. One, they just pounded the flats because the Patriots weren't covering it. So, I give Sean Mannion credit for going back to that and just going back to it and going back. Hey, if they don't stop it, keep doing it. And they kept doing it and doing it and doing it. But more shotgun than I expected with Tanner McKee. So maybe he's just more comfortable in that environment because he looked much better today than he's looked all spring and summer. So that was positive for him. Josh Weiroo got a sack. Everybody's going to be excited about that. Blown coverage late loses the game. Isaiah Bolden just got here. Looked like he was expecting help.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what it looked like to me, too.
Yeah, so, that's just a miscommunication. It doesn't really matter. Let's be honest. You prefer to win the game, but it doesn't matter. Ty Robinson with 2 sacks. That's big.
Boy, he's showing up, huh?
Yeah, he's coming back. So a lot of positives after that first performance, which was so ugly. I'm surprised how much Tanner McKee played. And they put Cole Payton in at the end, and the fumble loses the game. Cam Williams gets beat on that pass rush. So our buddy who loves Cole Payton, I guess the Cole Young magic didn't work. But 300 yards of offense. Carson Steele had 6 catches for 84 yards.
I know.
And just all flat.
How many yards did he have on the ground? He must have had 30 or 40 yards on the ground, too.
Yeah, he had 33 and 12 carries, so not as impactful as a runner. But in the receiving, they just wouldn't cover the flats. And it wasn't just Steele. It was also they had a big play to Latu in the flat. Stone Smart had a bunch of catches in the flat. That was just as simple as it gets. But, hey, I say it all the time. Simple is great if they're not stopping it. Just do it again and again and again and again. And that's what they did. And they just took advantage. For whatever reason, the Patriots are like, we'll let that go. And they just killed them with it.
Yeah, well, good job by Carson Steele. Yeah, a hell of a freaking hurdle by that dude. What is he, 230 pounds or whatever? He's getting up there. That was a pretty nice play by him. John, let's go to the actually real quick before I go to quarterbacks. We'll get there in a second. I want to start with just that opening play. That was a pretty scary thing that happened there at the opening play where Jackson went down. Got stretchered off in an ambulance. Obviously the Eagles did put out an update on him that he has strength in all extremities and things of that nature. But just a quick reminder, John, at the very start of a preseason game, how quick things can change in the game of football. Pretty nasty looking injury there.
Yeah, and that's the worst part about preseason football. You want to get out with everybody healthy, at least as healthy as possible. The good news is, as you mentioned, I look like, they didn't show the replay, at least when I was looking at it early. I don't know if they came back to it when it became clear he was all right. Um, but all indications are he got a helmet to his head. um, you never say a concussion is a good thing, but in this case, it's probably the best case scenario. And I know his agent put out a statement um, that said basically the same as he has all movement and strength in his extremities. Uh, Here we go. Awake, has full movement and use of all four limbs, and his CT scan came back negative. So, and that's from Jaquinda Jackson's agent, Damian Butler. So, um, could have been much worse. And again, you never say concussion. Potential concussion is a good thing, but in this case, it's the best case scenario.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Johnny Mac, good stuff. We all hope Jaquinda Jackson recovers fully 100% and is all good. John, let's go to the quarterbacks. Interesting. You said it, and it was interesting to me too. Tanner McKee played most of the game. I mean, he was 16-22 in the ball game, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, 125.8 rating for him. A much better performance this week for Tanner McKee than last. Andy Dalton, 3-10, 44 yards. John, to me, Andy Dalton looks shot. It's just how he looks to me. I haven't seen as much as you have this summer, but he just looks shot to me. And then Cole Payton started off a little quick there, but then the sack ended the game, so he didn't play much, if anything, at all. What are you seeing at this quarterback spot, man? I don't think Dalton is good enough to be the 2, and I don't know that they have the confidence I thought they did in Tanner McKee. Maybe tonight fix that or help that a little bit. How are you seeing it right now after tonight's performance?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought Andy, when they scored, I thought that second drive, I thought that was it. It was basically over. Um, and Andy was going to be the backup quarterback. So I'm not as down on him as you were. The first drive was not great, obviously. And the second drive was good, and he seemed to get a chemistry going with Cooper. And then they went out for the third drive, and it was just a bad sequence to Quez Watkins, I think twice, which I blame more on Quez. So the numbers look bad. If you're just looking at the numbers, I think it looks bad. And Tanner's look good. But again, all Tanner stuff was the same thing, basically in the flat, which is good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You don't go broke taking what they're giving you, as we always say, making positive plays. But I don't think if you're evaluating that as quarterback play, you're thrilled. It's not like tight window throws down the field. But you could see him gain some confidence back. I think it marches on. I thought it was over for a moment after that and kind of impressive drive that Andy Dalton had, but then he went back out there and had another bad drive, and then Tanner played well. So it looks like this competition is going to continue through the third preseason game. I get the feeling, as I've said before, the Eagles are more comfortable with Andy Dalton. But we'll see. Maybe Tanner changed that today.
Yeah, we'll see. John, I'd like to say this too, and maybe you're not wrong. Maybe Dalton wasn't as bad as it looked to me. I don't understand what they're doing though. Like, you have a dude who's 37 or 36, however old Andy Dalton is. He's obviously a veteran in this league. I think everybody knows what he is at this point. And then you have a quarterback that you just spent a draft pick on that has some athletic prowess, that needs to be developed clearly as a passer in the National Football League, if he ever gets to play ever in the National Football League. You have preseason games where you have 3s and 4s out there, and they don't put them out until the final 57 seconds, for a game-winning drive. I don't understand. Like, why wouldn't they split the reps with Dalton or with McKee and Cole Payton? To me, it's like, why are we playing Andy Dalton in preseason and not giving the rookie quarterback draft pick where you're supposed to develop some time to go and play? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about it, but it just feels stupid to me to have Andy Dalton out there in the preseason and not give Cole Payton an opportunity to try and develop.
Well, I think if you're cutting off, you have to cut off McKee's stint, not Andy's. I mean, Andy didn't play that much. Really only 3 drives, and then Tanner played a significant, at least from a rep standpoint, played the significant portion of the game. I was surprised. I was expecting Cole Payton to come out in the third quarter, to be honest. But they continued playing Tanner. Maybe wanted to get him going, and it worked to a certain degree. But I mean, yeah, you're gonna play obviously the backup quarterback, and the Eagles value that position. I don't think Dalton's the problem. If you want Peyton development, you got to cut off some of the reps for Tanner, not Andy Dalton. 3 drives is fine for what your projected backup is. And then again, the strange part was how much they went with Tanner McKee and didn't put Cole Payton in so late. But I mean, they know from the standpoint Cole Payton's not helping them this year, and they value the backup quarterback position, even the third string quarterback position.
I don't think the preseason is helping Andy Dalton, but I digress.
Yeah, I mean, look, Cole Payton's not close to Andy Dalton.
No, he's not.
I realize people might want that and might need that. I think, and again, I think
I personally would prefer to have my quarterback 3 being Cole Payton, just from a sense of there's no upside to Dalton. You know what I mean? Like there's at least
the upside the upside is if you need to win 2 games late in the season, he's the one most capable of doing it. That's the upside. That's what they want. They're not looking for it. The thought process not about playing 17 games and okay, who's more prepared to play 17 games? That's probably Tanner McKee. The thought process is you have a durable starting quarterback. If something goes wrong, you need a short stint, and you need a short stint with a big game, maybe to win an NFC East title or win a playoff game. Who's better equipped to do that for you? I think the organization believes that's Andy Dalton. They've certainly
I'm losing a little bit of confidence in that, for sure.
They've certainly been acting like that. Maybe this changes them, but I think when they look at this film and see, again, I agree with Sean Mannion's approach. I'm not picking up, but these are just flat passes and just easy throws, and for whatever reason, the Patriots didn't defend that particular part of the field. It was strange. I don't know how much that tells you when you're evaluating the position, other than it looks like it gave Tanner McKee some confidence back.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with it and if the Eagles do change anything. But, John, do you think that tonight was a clear example that they do have Dalton at the number 2 quarterback right now? I mean, it was his second straight start in the preseason. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, they were going back and forth with QB2, QB3 type thing. Seems like Dalton's out in front.
Yeah, definitely coming into the game, he was out in front. Definitely. Like you said, I mean, they did this nonsense in the spring, and they kept saying, "Well, we're rotating," and then we do the math, and they're not rotating at all. Every time we showed up and we were allowed in, Andy Dalton was taking the second team reps, and he's gotten the vast majority. Now he started 2 consecutive preseason games. I mean, he's the second team quarterback. Doesn't mean, Tanner McKee can't overtake him, and maybe this is the first step to that. But up to this point, it's pretty clear that he was second on the depth chart. Now, he had an interception to former Eagle Kendall Vildor, if people remember that great stint. That was overturned because of roughing the passer. So, yeah, I mean, but it's interesting. And that's where I think stats can lie. Like I think that third drive was a big Wes Watkins problem. And I think, you know, the brilliance of Tanner McKee's numbers, and they're pretty impressive. I think is 125 passer rating. You know, six receptions and 7 targets for 84 yards.
That's crazy.
To a running back.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Christian McCaffrey doesn't do that on a consistent basis. That just doesn't happen. That's how poorly New England was playing that simple little flat route.
Fair enough. All right, we'll see what ends up happening. John, one of the talks last week was Darius Cooper. I thought he had a better performance tonight. Didn't play too much, but he had 3 good catches for 44 yards along the 25, including a nice grab over the middle from Andy Dalton. What'd you make of Darius Cooper? It feels as though, John, and you can speak to this on what your thought process is, with Hollywood Brown being a scratch tonight, he's obviously safe on the roster, which you've been saying, and Johnny Wilson getting waived this week and then returned to IR. It feels as though it's a battle between Darius Cooper and Elijah Moore for the 5th wide receiver spot. What say you?
Yeah, I don't even think it's a battle anymore. It's Cooper's job, and the difference is, you know, the blocking part of it, because they need that in this offense. So I think Darius Cooper is clearly the 5th receiver. I think that race is over, barring any outside acquisition. It's over. Elijah Moore, they're going to have to keep 6 if he's got a chance. And I think a bad sort of situation for him is that, you know, Britton Covey was back there taking the punt returns. Now, he fumbled the first one, but was able to get it back. But to me, you know, if they were trying to find a spot for Elijah Moore, they would have given him at least split the punt returns. And Britton took all 4 of the punt returns. So I don't think things are looking that great right now for Elijah Moore. And I think it's pretty clear where they're going wide receiver wise in-house. They could add something outside if they want more size. Specifically, they could go outside the organization. But if they don't and they stay inside, you got your top 5. It's pretty clear. It's Devontae, it's Dontavian, it's Mekhi Lemon, it's Hollywood Brown, and it's Cooper at number 5.
Fair enough. Good point there. All right, John, let's talk about some of the standouts tonight. You mentioned him at the Open. Ty Robinson, man, that's now 3 sacks for him in 2 preseason games. Really, and he's not playing a full game, so it's not like it's 2 full games here. And this is fresh off of Vic kind of threw that comment out. He was on life support. Not what you want to hear from your defensive coach. But Ty Robinson's answered. He's had two good games, 3 sacks in the last 2. And I think he's starting to show some signs, you know, probably too early to crown him yet. But what'd you see from Ty Robinson? Are you intrigued by the last 2 preseason games for Ty?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why people were giving up on him so quickly. And I've mentioned that a number of times. I think he can play, just needed to take some time. The problem is, obviously, you know, the depth chart, and the Eagles are so good at defensive tackle. I'll disagree with Vic, and I'll say the deepest depth part of the defense is defensive tackle with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and then Moro Jomo, Byron Young, and Ty Robinson. And you got to find a spot for Uar Bernard. So do you really want to keep 6? If you want to improve this roster somewhere else, all of a sudden this is a viable trade candidate because teams elsewhere will need defensive tackles. And Ty Robinson's putting some good tape out there. So there's a lot of different ways you can go with it, but they're not. I can tell you the one way they're not going with it, and that's cutting Ty Robinson. They were not cutting him.
No, they're not going
to. Yeah. So we've talked about him a lot. I thought people got way too excited when he was a rookie because of some of the hype, the vanilla gorilla stuff, just the big biceps and all that kind of stuff, and played fullback at Nebraska. People loved that. And they got too overhyped about it. He didn't perform because he wasn't ready, and they gave up on him. And here he is in year 2, taking a big step forward, which is the trajectory for most rookies, believe it or not. Most don't act like Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean right out of the gates.
Yeah, well, good stuff there for Ty Robinson coming along here. John, another guy who's been standing out to me through the 2 preseason games, and the reports from practice were that he's looked good all through summer as well. And the biggest change for this player for me is last year he looked like still, I don't want to use them, a boy coming out of college. This year he looks like a man on the NFL football field, and that's Jeremiah Trotter Jr., John. He had a great sack tonight. Perfect timing, as perfect as it can get. I think he had the quarterback in less than 2 seconds on that play. I just think he's a damn good player. I don't know if he's going to get snaps. I don't know if it ever gets to a point, where he is pushing for snaps at some point in the regular season. I understand he's behind 2 good linebackers. But what you see from Jeremiah Trotter, man, he's had a good summer.
Yeah, I just think he's a really good football player. He's just caught behind 2 better football players at linebacker for the Eagles. I think he's a starting level linebacker in this league. I think eventually he'll be probably one of those guys that, just like Milton Williams and probably Moro Jomo after this year, I think he'll be that at the linebacker position. Might have to go somewhere else to get that opportunity. But I think he can flat out play. He shows it. It's no surprise every time he's out there. Tremendously instinctive. I think it was 8 minutes into the game where he had figured out Tommy DeVito's cadence and just came on the blitz untouched because he knew the snap count. Like, he's so instinctive. I don't want to bring up Luke Kuechly's name, but there's a little bit of that. People will talk about Nakobe Dean's instincts, and they're right. He was a very instinctive linebacker. That's Trotter's like Nakobe Dean. That's the type of player he is. He's not the best athlete out there, but he's so smart. There's no false steps. The worst thing playing linebacker in this league, you could be Devin White and be the super athlete,
right?
And you have a false step, and
you're done.
It turns into a 4.7, and meanwhile the 4.6 guy turns into a 4.5 because he's always in the right spot and he always understands. So that to me is the type of player he is, and he's just he's just going to be rock solid every time he's out there because he's that smart of a football player.
Do you feel as though, John, there's a world that we can look to in the future, not this year, obviously, where Jahad Campbell and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. could be your 2 linebackers in Philadelphia?
No, because Zach, I don't know. Zach Bond is the best player on the Philadelphia Eagles that nobody understands is like an all-pro level player.
I wasn't trying to discredit Zach. Obviously, he's incredible, but contracts happen, John. You got a 30-year-old player,
Yeah, but he's not. Yeah, we've talked about that. He's not. He didn't play his first 5 years, which is a stain on the Saints. But he played such little reps. He didn't. He doesn't have the tread off the tire that a typical 30-year-old would be. Um, he's played 2 years here. He's been one of the top 2 or 3 linebackers in the NFL for both of those seasons. Um, when we talk about Jihad Campbell's upside, and we talk about Jeremiah Trotter and Covey Dean, these are all good players. None of them are going to reach the heights that you saw Zach Ballin have over the past 2 seasons. He's a different level. He's an all-pro. He's, other than Fred Warner, you can't point to one linebacker in this league that's played better over the last 35 games because he plays in the playoffs than Zach Ballin. So I don't even think about moving on.
I mean, I get it. I think Zach's great too. My thinking is more about with Cooper and Quinion coming up next year after paying Jordan and Carter. Does he eventually cut or try and crunch a little bit? I think I understand your point, John. Leave upside aside for a second. Leave athletic prowess aside for a second. Leave potential aside for a second. Is Jeremiah Trotter Jr. a better linebacker than JAKIB Campbell is right now on August 22nd, 2026?
No. I think he's, as I said, he's more instinctive. I think he understands how to play the position better. But I think, JAKIB Campbell is such a gifted athlete, such a unique body type. He creates hurdles that others can't create. I talk about his 6'8" wingspan all the time. So you can imagine if you're a quarterback trying to layer the football over the linebacker and in front of the safety, how difficult it will be to do it with JAKIB Campbell. And he came in as a rookie in those first 7 games and really the entire season. It was graded as one of the best coverage linebackers in football. The other stuff he keeps getting better at. Now there's still room to grow. You'd love to mesh his athleticism and his physical gifts with the instincts of trot, which you can't do. Seems to always be the way. You wish you could, but you can't. That's sort of like Zach Ballin. He's got instincts and he's got tremendous physical gifts. Not quite to the level of JAKIB, but great for the average linebacker. But no, JAKIB's going to play, and I know a lot of people have gone down that route. And even Vic, who gets frustrated with JAKIB at times, he gets frustrated with Drew McCuba, some of the young players who aren't totally immersed in the system and totally understand everything. But even him, he'll shut down when you try to ask about piecemealing it, as I did the one time. JAKIB's going to play, barring injury, and things happen, and he's got the shoulder issues. That's my only concern with JAKIB Campbell. I mean, he's got shoulder issues in both shoulders, so and potentially degenerative. That's why he went where he went. If he didn't have those issues, you're probably talking about a top 15 player in the draft.
Yeah, I get that.
So, I mean,
I've just seen such great development from Trotter. I'm not even trying to take away from Campbell. I think he's going to be great, but good answer there, John. All right, John, somebody else I want to talk about. We got a couple more questions and then let you go tonight, John. We appreciate you doing it as always. Eagles lost the game, everybody, 24-21. They fall to 0-2 on the preseason. Don't make much of that. They had a much better performance this week just from last week they had 6 first downs in the game. This week they had 18. Last week they were 0 for 9 on third down. Tonight they were 4 for 11 and 1 for 3. on third down. They logged up 301 total yards of offense out there. So a little bit of a better performance for the Birds with about 27 minutes of possession. So a little bit more of an even stat sheet in tonight's game. John, speaking of stat sheet, I see on mine, Joshua Weir shows up with a sack. Pretty amazing. His second game, John, and he gets a sack. To see him do that, I thought was pretty cool. What'd you make of him? And then also some thoughts on Uar Bernard, who's getting quite a bit who got a couple more snaps tonight as well.
Yeah, a couple tackles. Vic's not going to come off at long-term prospects. And the Eagles want to keep working with both. But, I think a lot of people want to skip those steps. But it is pretty cool. That was basically, a race to the quarterback, and he beat Ramirez, who's also a good player.
Yeah.
And to get the sack. So, kind of a blown, protection. But still, when you're in your second career game and you're able to get a sack, that's got to be pretty cool. And even Uar gets a couple tackles. So
yeah, he
got to get on the stat sheet. So I get it. I get it why people like the story, but they're not going to be relevant this year when it comes to playing. But the Eagles want to work with both, and hopefully, I think nothing's changed. They'll keep Bernard on the 53. They'll try to get Weiro back on the practice squad with the IPP exemption, and I think they will. And they'll be able to move forward with a long-term project.
We'll see what that looks like, Johnny Mac. John, Britton Covey muffed a punt tonight, and he jumped right on it. But, we've talked a lot about what his role is and who's going to do that role on this football team. Special teams is important, as everybody in Philadelphia knows, has been a big impact in Super Bowl games for this team. Concerned on Britton Covey. I mean, I don't know. It feels as though the margin for error is too small there to be muffing punts for someone that you got to kind of convince yourself to keep on the roster. Obviously, there's no room at the receiver position. We've already talked about that tonight. What'd you make of Britton Covey, the muff punt, and kind of your outlook on who's going to do the punt returns this year?
Well, Britton got all four. So like I said, when we were talking about the receivers, I thought, that was a bad sign for Elijah Moore. They might try to force feed him. I still think it's trending towards, they'll start Britton on the practice squad, elevate him to return punts for the first 3 games. And then they'll go from there, whether it's, make a decision. Usually somebody gets hurt in that time frame, and it's pretty easy, but we'll see how it shakes out. I will say, on the punt that he muffed, 99% of, and Britton, I know Britton well enough now that he's not going to make any excuses, but 99% of punt returners are going to let that go. And his mentality is, one of your jobs as the punt returner is to save field position. So that was a short punt. He was racing up to get it, to catch it at about the 20. And, if he lets it drop, it might, trickle into the inside the 10. Who knows? Could go either way. But, from a punt returner's perspective, you think that ball's going to drop and just continue going. So number one, that's usually what he offers, but he knows he's got to be more secure. I thought that would have opened the door a little bit. That's what I was saying immediately when I saw it, but they let him return punts for the rest of the game. They didn't even give Moore an opportunity. So that surprised me a little bit. If they're trying to get Moore a roster spot, that would be the place to get him one. And it looks like they're more comfortable with Britton Covey. And I don't think they're going to hold that against him.
We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with there. John, a couple more questions, and we'll let you run. The defensive line, John, to me, looks freaking stacked. I mean, and obviously you're not looking at superstar performers, but from a depth standpoint, I mean, holy crap, John, and credit to you, you've been telling me this all summer, and I didn't really see it, where I was like, I mean, I get, your top three are obviously elite, but after that, I mean, it looks like a bunch of dudes. They're playing good, man. There's a lot of dudes showing up on that defensive line. There was a couple guys in the middle. I'm blanking on their names right now on the middle of that defensive line that were playing really good tonight, getting pressure consistently. I can't believe I'm blanking on their names, but
Zion Wilson.
Zion Wilson. Yeah, great depth on that D line, man. Looks really good.
Gabe Hall was good early.
Gabe Hall, yep, he had a good night.
Yeah. I mean, they're loaded up front to the point where I say, I don't even know if, and it's not just defensive tackle, obviously. I mean, Gabe Hall played really well early in the game as a starter. And he's really got no shot to make this team. Zion Wilson, even lesser shot. So, yeah, they're really deep. But even the edge as well, when you see you're out there with Ebiketie and Epinesa. Epinesa made a good play early. To the point where, like I've said, and for people who watch this show, they know I'm very high on Jonathan Grenard when he gets healthy. That'll be able to help this defense greatly. But I don't even worry that he's injured because they have so much behind him. Now, I still want him out there, but I'm 99% sure they could persevere. Mekhi Lemon at wide receiver, like I think they need him on the field. And I don't even know if he can play, but he's got to be better than what they've been rolling out there without him. So that is sort of an indication of how deep the defensive front is. You got guys who are going to get cut who can probably play in this league. And you got so many edge rushers, you're like, well, if Grenard isn't ready until a month in, or he's not 100% until halfway through the season, you can persevere. You can get through that. So that kind of tells you how deep they are.
Fair enough. John, final question, then we'll rip some super chats, get you out of here tonight. Sean Mannion from the booth, because it's more successful, do you think they will now stick to it and keep Sean in the booth?
I don't think so, but we'll see. I mean, anything's
if they
possible.
do, what would that tell you?
Well, I would have to talk to Sean about it and get the feel if it's his decision or a decision made above him. My hunch would be it would be a decision made above him, because of everything he's told me up to date about how he thinks it's important to communicate in real time with the quarterback. In person to person and that sort of chemistry. I can't, it's so easy to look at last week and what a disaster it was, and look at this week and say, oh, it's better, and but that's the old correlation causation thing. That's you played really poorly. And you played better. But again, I don't see, like, all the flat stuff. I hate to keep harping on it, but it's not.
It's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not indicative of anything. It's got a long way to go. I'm not saying it's bad. It's good. One of the good things about it is it's essentially a rub route, and they didn't get any penalties. So that's a positive. Because they, when they typically do that stuff, they don't do it well, and they get called for a penalty here and there. So that part of it's positive, but it's not something where you go, oh, they figured it out. There's going to be a good football team. Like, I mean, if they were doing that against their own defense, Vic would eat that alive. if you're going to pepper them in the flats.
Right.
So, I don't think, I thought week 1 was an outlier. I think week 2 is similar. So I don't look at these 2 weeks and say one was bad, one was good, because Sean Mannion was in the booth versus on the sideline.
Fair enough. All right, John, let's rip some super chats. Good breakdown of the game. John, anything else I didn't hit that you thought stood out tonight from the game?
Just more Carson Steele, man. 2 hurdles. I don't know if you saw the first hurdle. He had 2 hurdles.
2 hurdles, yep.
2 hurdles for Carson Steele.
Freaking learning from Saquon over there, dude.
Yeah.
Good stuff from Steele. All right, let's go to a couple supers. Riot says, get this bum Andy Dalton off my screen. He is washed. McKee is clearly the quarterback number 2. J-Mac, much love, brother. And I finished my 6-pack.
Well, again, don't get caught up in, if everybody, think about what you saw. Think about what you saw. Flat, 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 flat. How many big time throws? There was one. But those are pitch and catches, and I'm glad that they got Tanner some confidence back. I think that's a good thing. But again, if you're just going to look at the box score, you're going to say, well, Tanner McKee's better than Andy Dalton. From the entirety of the process, the Eagles didn't believe that coming into tonight. We'll see if they believe it coming out of tonight. I don't think it's going to change things dramatically, other than he might have kept the door open, and I thought the door was going to be slammed tonight, slammed shut.
We'll see what ends up happening with that. Josh, thanks for the super chat, brother. He said, J-Mac, much love, brother. Forgive my English. That's all right, brother. You're 6 deep. We get it. All good. Leon says, the Vanilla Gorilla, Ty Robinson. Holy smokes. Yeah, he had a nice night, John.
Yeah, he did. That's shouldn't give up on people. Shouldn't get overhyped on people. Shouldn't give up on people. Players improve, especially from year 1 to year 2. That is supposed to be the year you show the most improvement in the NFL, and that's holding true with Ty Robinson.
Good stuff, Leon. Thank you, man. Here's JD3. Such wisdom from our head coach, best in the NFC, by the way, to tell Mannion to get in the booth. Instantly shows signs of life. Is that a good enough answer for you, bozos? Find a new complaint. JD3 is now the Nick Sirianni truther.
Yeah. Boy.
I don't think he's calling us bozos. I think he's calling everybody in the chat bozos who hates Nick.
Well, yeah. I mean, those who think Nick isn't a good head coach, or But I would tell everyone to, look up correlation and causation, because if you're going to point to putting Sean Mannion in the booth, that's a perfect example of why correlation is not causation.
Fair enough. All right, good stuff, Johnny Mac. Here we go with a couple more supers, and then we'll get you out of here. John, here's our Cole Payton fan. He's not going to be happy now, is my prediction. He said this. They're robbing Cole Young of his playing time for Andy dog shit. And why would they put him in the game 2 minutes just to get blindsided? The F is they doing? I knew he wasn't going to be happy, John.
Well, yeah, but I mean, why are you guys – the starter isn't the problem. The backup is the problem. The starter today was Andy Dalton. The fact that they played Tanner McKee as much as they did took the playing time away from Cole Payton. And, they don't care. They're not trying to win the game. So they saw it. They had one more drive, and there was time on the clock, and they let Cole have it. if you're a Cole Payton fan, you should be thrilled because otherwise he wouldn't have played at all. It's a preseason game. They're not trying to win the game.
All right, a couple more supers. Brian Pumper and Marshall going at it via super chats. Here's Pumper. If Tanner was dying of thirst in a desert, J-Mac would not give him water. Brian Pump is convinced J-Mac hates Tanner Delphia. SMH.
Pumper, I don't hate any football player. Like you guys care. I don't care, ultimately. Tanner as a person, love the dude. What's not to love? I give you my honest opinion on football players. I don't hate anybody. Why would I hate him? It's absurd.
Big Marsh is holding Tanner or Pumper accountable for calling for Tanner McKee to be a starter. He says, Brian Pumper, you better shut your mouth about McKee. You actually wanted to bench Hurts for McKee. You know nothing and are delusional. You and all your McKee fans go kick rocks. So they are going at it. Here's one more soup from Pump.
Well, anybody comparing any of these quarterbacks to Jalen Hurts is insane.
Agreed. Here's Pump. B-Pump is not seeing a lot of pre-snap motions. This is not good, fellas. This guy Mannion is way over his head. Madden coaching suggestions at offense.
You're going to see a lot of pre-snap motion when they're actually have the starters out there. I don't know if it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, but you're going to see quite a bit, at least compared to what they have been in the past.
All right, there's that one. We appreciate that. Here's Kyle Kokorski. I thought there were a lot of homer calls in this game. What was the deal with the one flag where they didn't show what happened?
We got our first flag guy in the preseason. You're really going to be complaining about flags in the preseason? Who cares? If you're new to the show, Xander can tell you, I don't complain about it.
I'm with you on flags, by the way. There are problems in basically every game, so it's an even playing field. John, your final thoughts on the preseason game tonight? Eagles lose the game, fall to 0-2, but some better signs tonight. Your final thoughts here before we catch up with you on Monday.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff from Carson Steele. It ruined a million headlines because they all would have been Carson Steele related, stealing the show, whatever you want to use. And they didn't get it done. Isaiah Bolden for the conspiracy theories. He used to be a Patriot, so maybe he dropped the coverage on purpose. I'm joking. It's a preseason game. And they played better, and that's a positive step. Especially offensively, because they needed some confidence, and it looks like they gained some confidence. But remember, none of these guys are playing. The key contributors are not out there. So ultimately, week 1 didn't matter. Week 2 didn't matter. Week 3 is not going to matter in the preseason. These guys aren't going to play. So the guys who are going to play are who are going to win and lose football games for you.
All right, John. Good stuff, man. We appreciate it. We will catch up with you again on Monday. Good stuff tonight, J-Mac. Well done. We'll talk to you then.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, J-Mac. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen joining us right here on the JAKIB postgame show after the Eagles preseason matchup